The rain had been falling since dawn, thin and relentless, soaking the cracked pavement and washing the city in a dull gray sadness, when she finally let go of the only thing she had left. Her fingers trembled as they released it, not because of the cold, but because this small object carried the weight of her entire past. As it slipped from her hands, it felt as though a piece of her heart went with it. She did not cry. She had learned long ago that tears wasted energy better used for survival. What she did not know, what she could not see through the rain and exhaustion, was that someone across the street had stopped walking and was staring at her with an intensity that would soon change both their lives forever. If this opening already makes you feel something, if you believe that kindness and second chances still matter in a world that often feels cold and unfair, then take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel for more stories that remind us of our humanity. Her name was Lena, and hunger had become a familiar companion. It gnawed at her stomach day and night, a constant reminder of how fragile life could be when everything fell apart. She lived in a single rented room at the edge of the city, a place with peeling paint, a broken window taped with plastic, and a flickering bulb that buzzed like it was mocking her. Every morning she woke before sunrise to clean offices, wash dishes, or do whatever work she could find for a few crumpled bills. Some days she ate, some days she did not, but every day she kept going, because stopping was not an option when survival itself was the goal. The treasure she sold that morning was small and easy to miss. It was an old locket, its gold surface scratched and dull from time, with a tiny dent on one side. To anyone else, it looked like a cheap piece of jewelry barely worth a meal. To Lena, it was everything. It had belonged to her mother, the last gift she received before illness took her away. Inside the locket was a faded photograph and a lock of hair, reminders of warmth, safety, and a time when Lena believed the world would always protect her. Selling it felt like erasing the final proof that she had once been loved without conditions. She stood outside a small pawn shop, its sign half broken and its window cluttered with forgotten items. Her reflection stared back at her, thin face, tired eyes, hair pulled back in a careless knot. She hesitated for a long moment, gripping the locket so tightly that its edges pressed into her skin. Then hunger won. It always did. She stepped inside, and a few minutes later, she walked back out with barely enough money for bread, soup, and maybe a piece of fruit. The locket was gone. Across the street, sheltered under a black umbrella, a man in a tailored coat had stopped walking. His name was Adrian Cross, and the world knew him as a billionaire investor, a man whose decisions moved markets and reshaped industries. He had built his empire from nothing, rising from a childhood marked by poverty and loss to a life of unimaginable wealth. Yet despite all his success, there was a quiet emptiness in him that no amount of money had ever filled. He had learned to read people the way others read books, noticing small details most ignored. And it was one small detail that stunned him now. He had not noticed Lena at first. He noticed the way she held the locket before entering the shop, the hesitation, the silent struggle written in the tension of her shoulders. More than that, he noticed what happened when she came out. People sold things every day. Desperation was common in the city, but when Lena stepped back into the rain, there was a subtle change in her posture, as if she had just buried someone she loved. Adrian had seen that look before, years ago, in the mirror, when he sold his father's old watch to buy food during his own darkest days. The memory hit him with unexpected force. He watched as Lena walked to a nearby bakery and bought the simplest food available. She ate slowly, savoring each bite, not with greed but with gratitude. That, too, stunned him. There was no bitterness in her expression, no anger at the world, only exhaustion and a quiet dignity that refused to be broken. Adrian felt something stir inside him, something he had not felt in a long time. It was not pity, it was recognition. Lena finished eating and wrapped the remaining bread carefully, saving it for later. She then walked toward the bus stop, rain soaking her thin shoes. Adrian found himself following at a distance, unsure why his feet moved without conscious decision. He told himself he was simply curious, that he wanted to understand why this moment had affected him so deeply. But deep down, he knew it was more than that. He knew that life was offering him a chance, the kind of chance that money alone could never buy. The bus arrived, old and loud, and Lena climbed on. Adrian boarded as well, standing a few steps away. The ride was long, passing through neighborhoods that told stories of struggle and survival. When Lena finally got off, Adrian followed again, watching as she entered a worn apartment building. He did not intrude. He did not approach her. Instead, he stood outside for a long time, rain dripping from his umbrella, thinking about the locket now sitting in a pawnshop display case. That night, Lena sat alone in her room, the silence heavier than usual. She ate the rest of the bread and drank water, trying to ignore the ache in her chest. Without the locket, the room felt emptier, as if the last warmth had been taken with it. She lay down fully clothed, staring at the ceiling, telling herself that memories lived in the heart, not in objects. Still, sleep did not come easily. Across the city, Adrian could not sleep either. He replayed the image of Lena's hands releasing the locket over and over again. He knew exactly what it meant to sell a piece of your soul to survive. By morning, he had made a decision that surprised even himself. The next day, the pawnshop owner was startled when a well-dressed man walked in and asked to see a small scratched locket bought the previous day. Adrian paid far more than it was worth without hesitation. Holding it in his palm, he felt the strange weight of responsibility. This was not about charity. This was about restoring something that should never have been taken by hunger. Finding Lena again was not difficult. He waited near the bus stop, keeping his distance until he saw her approach. Her steps slow but determined. When she noticed him standing there, holding out the locket, confusion flickered across her face, followed by shock so deep it almost made her stumble. She stared at the object as if it were a ghost, something impossible standing in front of her. Adrian did not explain everything. He did not overwhelm her with promises or money. He simply returned what was hers and told her that some things were too important to be traded for survival. Lena's hands shook as she took it back, tears finally breaking free after being held back for so long. In that moment, the world felt kinder than it had in years. But this was not where the story ended. It was where it truly began. Over the following weeks, Adrian found ways to help without stripping Lena of her dignity. He helped her find stable work, first quietly supporting the small business that hired her, then offering opportunities that allowed her to grow. Lena, who had always been strong, proved to be capable beyond what anyone expected. She worked tirelessly, learned quickly, and carried herself with a grace born from hardship. Adrian watched from a distance at first, then closer, as her life slowly began to change. What stunned Adrian most was not Lena's resilience, though it was remarkable. It was her kindness. Despite everything she had endured, she still found ways to help others, sharing food, offering comfort, listening to stories that mirrored her own. She never forgot what it felt like to be invisible. And in her presence, Adrian felt something he thought he had lost forever: purpose. Months passed, and Lena's life stabilized. Her room was replaced with a small but warm apartment. Her meals were regular. Her nights were quieter. The locket rested once again against her heart, a symbol not only of her past, but of the moment the future shifted. Adrian, too, changed. The emptiness that once haunted him softened, replaced by a sense of connection that no business victory had ever provided. The city remained imperfect. Rain still fell. People still struggled. But for Lena and Adrian, something fundamental had shifted. A single moment of attention, a single act of understanding, had created a ripple that altered two lives forever. Before this story ends, take a moment to comment below and share what you believe Lena's true treasure really was. Was it the locket? or the strength that allowed her to survive when everything else was gone. As the sun set one evening, casting golden light across the city, Lena stood by her window, holding the locket in her hand. She thought about the day she sold it, the hunger, the pain, and the stranger who saw more than just a desperate girl. She understood now that while objects could be lost and found, what truly mattered was being seen, truly seen, at the lowest point of your life. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that even the smallest act of kindness can change a destiny, then please like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps keep stories like this alive, stories that remind us that humanity still exists, even in the rain.